Peter the elder was tethered to the earth. He found solace in routine, in the predictability of a well-brewed cup of coffee and the familiar rhythm of the day. He dreamt of a small café, a cosy nook filled with the aroma of freshly baked bread and the murmur of contented customers. This dream fueled his steady job at the bakery, his careful savings, his grounded approach to life. Adam, on the other hand, floated. He chased ephemeral dreams, each one brighter, bolder, and ultimately emptier than the last. He lacked the discipline of a 9-to-5, flitting between odd jobs and grand schemes. His charisma drew people in, but his follow-through faltered. He was all spark, no fuel. Their late parents, bless their souls, had worried. They had tried to instill in Adam the value of hard work, the satisfaction of a job well done, but Adam, restless and easily bored, preferred the allure of the unknown. Peter, ever responsible, bore the brunt of their disappointment, the unspoken hope that he would guide his brother. Their childhood home, a modest brick bungalow on Elm Street, held a lifetime of shared memories. It was there, amidst the worn furniture and faded photographs, that the brothers' paths diverged. One anchored, the other adrift. Peter's cafe dream hit a snag. The perfect location, a sun-drenched corner lot, slipped through his fingers. His savings, painstakingly accumulated over years of double shifts and frugal living, were not enough. Disappointment settled over him, a dull ache in his chest. Adam, oblivious to his brother's turmoil, was caught in the whirlwind of his latest venture, personalized dog walking. He envisioned a canine empire complete with custom-designed leashes and gourmet treats. Peter, ever the pragmatist, pointed out the flaws, the unpredictable nature of furry clients, the low profit margin. Their conversations, once filled with easy banter and shared dreams, grew strained. Peter's frustration simmered beneath the surface, fueled by years of witnessing Adam's fleeting passions and inevitable failures. The weight of his brother's unrealized potential pressed down on him, a heavy burden to bear. One evening, amidst a heated debate about Adam's latest get-rich-quick scheme, Peter snapped. He couldn't hold it back any longer. The words tumbled out, fueled by years of unspoken resentment and worry. Adam, caught off guard, retreated, his usual charm replaced by a flicker of hurt. The opportunity arrived unexpectedly, tucked inside a local newspaper advertisement. A storefront for lease, nestled in the heart of their old neighborhood. It wasn't the sun-drenched corner lot of Peter's dreams, but it held potential, good bones, ample space, and a location that tugged at their shared history. Peter, cautious but hopeful, contacted the landlord. The rent was surprisingly affordable, a stroke of luck in their favor. He envisioned the space transformed. Warm lighting, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, the comforting hum of conversation. This could be it. The chance he'd been waiting for. He shared the news with Adam, a flicker of excitement in his voice. To his surprise, Adam's eyes lit up. He too saw the potential, not for a cafe, but for a vintage clothing store. He'd been collecting unique pieces for years, scouring flea markets and thrift stores for hidden gems. For the first time in years, their dreams converged. They spoke excitedly, sketching out plans, dividing the space, envisioning a future where their contrasting passions could coexist under one roof. Hope, fragile yet persistent, bloomed between them. The initial excitement of shared purpose soon gave way to the familiar rhythm of their contrasting personalities. Peter, ever methodical, approached the renovation with a detailed plan and a strict budget. He spent his evenings meticulously scraping peeling paint, his hands calloused, his mind focused on the task at hand. Adam, true to form, approached the project with bursts of chaotic energy. He'd disappear for days, returning with a van load of mismatched furniture or a head full of grandiose ideas that quickly fizzled out. He talked a big game about attracting influencers and curating a unique shopping experience, but the practicalities, inventory, pricing, online presence remained vague. Peter, ever the pragmatist, started noticing inconsistencies. Adam would brush off questions about finances, his usual charm tinged with a new evasiveness. Deliveries arrived at odd hours, addressed only to A. Miller. The landlord mentioned a substantial deposit made in cash, an amount Adam couldn't possibly afford. Doubt, like a weed, began to take root in Peter's mind. He tried to ignore it, to cling to the hope of their shared dream. But the signs were there, whispers in the wind, hinting at a truth he didn't want to acknowledge. The truth, when it arrived, was brutal in its simplicity. Peter arrived at the storefront one morning, eager to show Adam the new espresso machine he'd painstakingly refurbished, but the door was locked. He peered through the dusty windowpane, his heart plummeting to his stomach. Adam's vintage clothing racks were gone, replaced by rows upon rows of gleaming slot machines. The air, thick with the smell of fresh paint, buzzed with the telltale hum of electronics. A neon sign, garish and out of place, flickered to life. Adam's Arcade. Betrayal, sharp and cold, pierced through Peter's chest. He fumbled for his phone, his fingers trembling as he dialed Adam's number. The call went straight to voicemail, the cheery pre-recorded message a cruel mockery of the storm raging within him. He finally reached the landlord, who confirmed his worst fears. Adam, using their shared inheritance money that Peter had entrusted to him for the cafe, had secretly negotiated a separate lease for the entire space. He'd spun a tale of a grand vision, a family-friendly arcade, securing a loan by using their parents' house as collateral. The weight of Adam's betrayal crashed over Peter, a tidal wave of anger, hurt and disbelief. Years of unspoken resentment, of carrying the burden of his brother's recklessness, rose to the surface. He had believed, against his better judgment, in the possibility of their shared dream. And Adam, true to his nature, had shattered it. Peter spent the next few days in a daze. The anger, raw and consuming at first, gradually gave way to a bone-deep weariness. He couldn't comprehend the depth of his brother's deception, the sheer audacity of it all. Their parents' home, their legacy, their shared history, all gambled away on a whim. He considered confronting Adam, demanding answers, unleashing the full force of his fury. But what good would it do? Adam, always quick with excuses and justifications, would only offer empty promises, hollow apologies that meant nothing. Instead, Peter focused on damage control. He contacted a lawyer, exploring legal options, clinging to the slim hope of salvaging their parents' home. He threw himself into his work at the bakery, the familiar routine a balm to his frayed nerves. He returned to the storefront, the site of Adam's Arcade, now a painful reminder of his shattered trust. But amidst the anger and hurt, a flicker of determination ignited within him. He would not let his brother's betrayal break him. He would pick up the pieces, rebuild his life brick by brick. Adam's Arcade, conceived in haste and fueled by misguided ambition, quickly floundered. The initial novelty wore off, replaced by the harsh realities of running a business. Bills piled up, unpaid and ignored. The clientele, drawn in by the allure of easy money, proved unreliable. He'd pushed aside the guilt, the knowledge of how he'd betrayed his brother, burying himself in the fantasy of his latest venture. But reality, like a persistent shadow, had a way of catching up. The weight of his actions, the consequences of his choices, pressed down on him. The phone calls started, creditors demanding payment, threats veiled and not so veiled. The bank, alerted to his precarious financial situation, froze his accounts. The once vibrant colours of his arcade seemed to fade, the flashing lights now a mocking reminder of his folly. He thought of Peter, imagined his brother's face etched with disappointment and hurt. He tried to convince himself that he was doing this for both of them, that his success would make up for past failures. But the lie, whispered in the dead of night, rang hollow in his ears. Peter received a call one evening, a wrong number that turned out to be anything but. It was the landlord of the storefront, his voice laced with a mixture of pity and resignation. Adam's arcade was being evicted, its doors shuttered, its contents seized. He'd expected a surge of triumph, a sense of vindication. But as he stood before the empty storefront, the neon sign dark, he felt only a profound sadness. Pity for his brother, for the wasted potential, for the broken promises. The anger, once a raging fire, had dwindled to embers. He realized that holding on to it, clinging to the bitterness, would only continue to poison him from the inside out. He deserved better, a life free from the weight of his brother's choices. He thought about their childhood, about the shared laughter and secrets whispered in the dark. They were different. Always had been, their paths diverging like branches of the same tree. He couldn't fix Adam, couldn't force him to change. All he could do was let go. Life, as it always does, went on. Peter eventually found his café, a cosy space tucked away on a quiet street. It wasn't the grand vision he once held, but it was his. Built with his own hands, his own sweat and savings. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the gentle murmur of conversation filled the air, a testament to his resilience. He never heard from Adam again. He imagined him drifting, chasing some new dream, forever seeking, never finding. A part of him, a brother's love, buried deep, hoped that Adam would find his way, that he would learn from his mistakes. He kept a photograph on a shelf in his cafe, a faded image of two boys grinning mischievously at the camera, a reminder of a shared history, of a bond broken but not forgotten. The thread of their relationship might be severed, but the memories, like ghosts, lingered. A bittersweet ache in his heart, a silent recognition of what once was and could never be again.